The last season of Sweet Home will premiere on Netflix on July 19th, 2024. While the time between this season and the previous is considerably shorter, there are still a number of crucial points to keep in mind before watching the last season. Sweet Home is a K-drama based on the webtoon of the same name, starring Song Kang, Lee Si-young, Go Min-shi, and Lee Jin-wook. One of Netflix's largest K-dramas to date, Sweet Home has achieved enormous success and will finally wrap up its story for good. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to support us, check out our website. We have a lot of inventory and something for everyone. Let's get into it. Several original Sweet Home characters didn't make it to Season 3. Sweet Home's second season's character losses were even more devastating than the show's first. Only 8 of the original Sweet Home characters are still alive at the end of Season 2 of the fantasy K-drama, which goes on to demonstrate that no character is secure in the world of humans and monsters. Particularly since viewers had come to love these characters in the first season of the show, these deaths are devastating. But not every character was meant to survive to the very end, especially with Sweet Home 2 adopting an entirely different tone. Sweet Home 2 is full of new interesting characters. It will be fascinating to watch how each of these characters develops in the third and final season, perhaps striking an effective balance that combines the greatest elements of the first 2 seasons. Season 2's Private Park Chan-young, Master Sergeant Tak In-hwan, and Scientist Dr. Lim are among the characters from Sweet Home Season 3 that are back. By the conclusion of Season 2, every one of these characters is in a vulnerable situation. While In-hwan is displaying monsterization symptoms and Chan-young is headed toward chaos at the stadium, Dr. Lim discovers one of Sweet Home 2's most important secrets. It will be fascinating to watch how each of these characters progresses in the third and final season, perhaps achieving an appropriate balance that combines the greatest elements of the first 2 seasons. Cha Hyun-soo is absent for most of Season 2. Despite being the leading character of Sweet Home's first season, Song Kang's Cha Hyun-soo was absent for most of its second. The dangerous decision drew a lot of criticism, and the narratives of the newer characters appeared to take the place of Cha Hyun-soo's significance from the first season. Because so much of what fans had loved about the first season had changed, some found it more difficult to embrace Sweet Home's new tone shift. Sweet Home Season 2's time skip moved characters into a new setting. The time skips to day 337 since monsterization. After the explosion at the resident of Green Home's newly discovered refuge, the survivors moved under another neighboring stadium. The Crow Platoon is in charge of maintaining order at this stadium. They have implemented a rigorous curfew and limited access to the outside world. The old Green Home survivors are all treated like misfits in the new facility. Kim Young-soo, for instance, is tormented by other kids at the shelter, and Lee Yoon-yu is perceived as a killer who killed Dong-ji, the spouse of Chief Ji. Hyun-soo was used as an experiment to understand monsters and monster humans. These experiments create new tensions ahead of Season 3. Dr. Lim has tested monster humans before, and Hyun-soo is not the last. Despite the time skip and the monotony of being confined underground, Dr. Lim incites Jun-il, the recently formed monster human, to murder his mother. However, Hyun-soo's time with Dr. Lim evokes more sympathy for the monsters, as Hyun-soo can see what the humans are thinking inside their monstrous shells. The further introduction and exploration of monster humans is likely to play a big part in Sweet Home's final season, especially as their loyalties to humans and monsters vary from person to person. Yi Kyung gives birth to a monster child. The nameless girl's powers are different to other monsters. Lee Si-young's character Seo Yi Kyung found out she was expecting in the first season of Sweet Home. Despite being just a few months pregnant in Sweet Home 2, Yi Kyung gives birth to a daughter, Kim Si-ah, prior to the show's time jump. Because Yi Kyung's father, Sung-won, is a monster human, the birth of the child is accelerated. She so carries the assumption that her unborn child is part monster. Her abilities, compared to those of other monsters and monster humans like Cha Hyun-soo, appear to function very differently, though. Hyun-soo killed Yi Kyung. Yi Kyung couldn't live with the guilt as a human or monster. Yi Kyung started to lose herself in the world of monsters in season 2. After her daughter was born, she struggled to decide whether to kill her or keep her alive. After determining that her kid appears normal, Yi Kyung finally decides to put her daughter in Hyun-soo's care before going back to raise her herself. Kim Shia wants her mother to understand her, but her mother is afraid and mistreats her daughter. Although Yi Kyung's death as a monster was not shown on screen, it is possible that she would be brought back to life in Sweet Home Season 3. The monsters are evolving. In the webtoon, these neo-humans were heartless, powerless creatures devoid of desires. At first, characters that transform into monsters think that this is their final state, but one of the biggest surprises of Season 2 indicates there's more to come. Characters are cocooned for a while after turning into monsters and then resurrected as neo-humans. In the original webtoon, these neo-humans have no more desires and are emotionless beings with no monstrous powers. While the exact function of neo-humans in the next season of Sweet Home 3 is yet unknown, one of the show's returning characters appears to be crucial to this new storyline. Ui Myung is actually Sung-won. Hyun Sang-wook, portrayed by Lee Jin-wook in Season 1, was murdered in the last episode by Jung Ui Myung, the antagonist of the series. Ui Myung is a liquid monster with the ability to take on human form. Ui Myung tells Dr. Lim in Season 2, Episode 8 that he is Sang-won, who's actually Yi Kyung's fiancé, and that he was never really Ui Myung. Prior to the events of Season 1, Sang-won had vanished and had turned himself up to the military in the hopes that they could stop the pandemic, or find a vaccine. However, Sang-won suffered cruel treatment at the hands of the scientists due to Dr. Lim's relentless passion for science. Sang-won now has a contempt for people, which seems to be a major theme in Sweet Home 3. Yoon Hyuk is alive, but he isn't the same Yoon Hyuk as before. In the 8th episode of Sweet Home 2, Yoon Hyuk emerges from a cocoon. Although he appears human, he is not. In the Sweet Home universe, Yoon Hyuk is most likely a neo-human, which is one of the final stages of monsterization. Yoon Hyuk's monsterization brings back a much-needed phase from Sweet Home's first season, but it also presents a new challenge as Yoon Hyuk is likely to become one of Sweet Home's new antagonists in its final season. Now that we have done a recap, are you excited for Sweet Home Season 3? What are your expectations? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time.